what does phase 3 mean? Essentially, it's increased in the easing of various measures. I'll give you an example. For example, meals, whether it's lunches or dinners that are hosted in homes. Before, you could only have 5 people at the dinner table. Now you can have 8 people. Now, it doesn't sound a lot, but for many families, it's a big improvement, all right? In the shopping malls, previously the capacity is only 50%. You only allow 50% capacity of people coming in, but now you increase it to 65%, all right? So there are easing of measures to allow more everyday life to proceed. But in exchange, the measures to protect oneself, whether, as I showed you, the wearing of the mask, safe distancing, the use of an application, which in Singapore's case is what is called Trace Together, to track where you are or who your contacts have been. All these are in place, and they are, to be frank, strictly enforced for the safety, public safety of the people in Singapore.
And we understand that the failure to comply with these measures carries legal penalties too, right?
Yes. There's different grades of violation, but if there is an initial violation, usually there is a warning. And there is a very interesting concept here in Singapore, what we call safe distancing ambassadors, who are people recruited and trained to help manage the flow of people, make sure that people have 1 meter distance from one another in the public places. But if these are not complied, then there are penalties, including fines. And in some cases, if there are more severe violations of the guidelines, there are, various offenses can be punished for foreigners, for example, can be asked to leave the country, deportation. These have happened in the past during the circuit breaker period, and these legal measures continue.
Ambassador, Singapore faced rising number of infection among migrant workers before. So what the experience from Singapore that you can share with us in terms of measure helping migrant workers?
Yes, that's a very important question. Let me just say, first of all, that the situation here in Singapore is, of course, unique. You have a small country, and with, I think, the third most densely populated country in the world. There's a very high number of foreign workers here. I think in the what we call the foreign workers dormitories, there are 43 of them, various sites. There's a total of about 323,000 migrant workers there. So you have a unique situation in Singapore. When the cases start to really increase, I would say either geometrically or exponentially in around April, we had cases, I think the peak was around 1,200 infections a day for a short time. What happened? First of all, the circuit breaker, what they call the circuit breaker, what other countries call a lockdown, was in effect throughout the entire country. So you had the entire country in a circuit breaker period, I think for about 7 weeks, which means you really cannot come out of your house unless it's for very, with very targeted and specific reasons. Okay, and then in what we call the foreign workers dormitories, they were, the term that was used was gazetted, which means no one in, no one out. But medical facilities and other amenities were provided in these foreign workers dormitories in order to allow the foreign workers or the migrant workers to continue with their daily lives, but within those dormitories. Work stopped. So there was no, the work sites, whether it is in construction, other things, was put on hold. And the foreign workers were essentially confined to the dormitories for about close to 3 months. We are now in a situation where the testing has shown that the number of cases have gone down very dramatically.
Mr. Ambassador, as we all know that Singapore will be hosting the next World Economic Forum in May this year, right? So, and that means thousands of people from all over the world will be invited to Singapore. So as things stand now, does the Singaporean government really intend to have all these participants physically present at the conference?
Well, that is a very important question. Let me just start by saying that I believe the approach that Singapore is using now based on the confidence that they have gained from managing the pandemic. It's now about, I think today we had only 5 cases, 4 imported cases and 1 case in the community. It's the first community case in a couple of weeks. So they are confident, and so they have developed what we call a risk-managed approach. That is, they look at the various risk factors. How do they weigh between the pandemic, controlling pandemic, ensuring public safety, health safety, at the same time to open the economy in order to support 2 goals, which is recovery and preparedness and readiness for the post-COVID situation. So based on this risk-managed approach, they feel that they are ready to host the World Economic Forum meeting here in Singapore in May. There will be, of course, very strict health protocols in place. How do you ensure people coming in from the airport to go to the conference venue and to the, I guess, the hotel sites? It may be in the same place, we don't know yet, but the protocols will be quite strict. So that is how we see things with regard to the WEF that is expected, envisaged to be held in May of 2021.